What up, what up, what up? What's going on? What? Oh man, let's go.
Missy's just looking at him like, what?
I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped, but also so saddened.
Man, I'm depressed that we're like literally like recording this right after watching the last episode.
That's when you know it's real.
It's too heavy.
Oh man. So what's going on, everyone? As the title of this episode suggests, we're gonna be recapping the new Netflix documentary of the Central Park Five. When they see us.
Yeah.
Man, I knew about the story a long time ago. I was heavy into it when I first heard about it as a kid. And I like that they're now being put into like the mainstream, and man, this I think is great. The way we're gonna start this off to try to keep it somewhat in order is start by each part. There's 4 parts in this series. So part 1 was just showing you how, like, showing you the I guess the like what happened when they like met at the park, like how they all got there. Had showed you pretty much it gave you the whole backstory. If you're not familiar, wait, before we even get into this, because we're jumping way ahead. If you're new to this podcast, I'm Shadell.
Yeah, good job.
Co-host
He's like way in it.
Co-host of Paging the Simpsons. I'm joined by my lovely fiance.
Hi, I'm Lauren.
I'm sorry about that. If you're an existing
He's
listener,
rude.
what's going on?
Don't mind him.
Oh man, I just wanted to get straight into this topic. I just completely forgot to introduce ourselves, but you guys already know us. What up? As I was saying, so if you're not familiar with the Central Park Five, essentially it was 5 young kids, all between the ages to 14, 15, 16. They were all unjustly arrested by the police after spending, hanging out with a crowd of their friends, going to the park, something that they normally do on any night. They were essentially 5 kids, or a group of kids, who all picked up and taken in for questioning. A lot of them without their parents' permission. And you have to see this documentary to really understand. We're gonna give you our thoughts for each part, but
yeah, there's gonna be spoilers.
Yeah,
if you're
so
not
if
aware,
you haven't seen it, check it out on Netflix.
We're,
Come
like,
back to this
diving
episode.
in.
Because, yeah, I really want to get into part 4. Like, I'm sure you guys all want us to. But we're going to start from the beginning.
We're gonna ease on in, guys.
So, since I already know the story already, tell me your thoughts. You saw part 1 where you see them all going to the park, hanging out, all that stuff. They see stuff happening in the park where, like, you see, like, this group of, like, older black guys beat up, like, this, I think, a white couple, I think it was.
Yeah. On the bike.
They saw that, and like the cops
like,
came
hollering.
and they all scattered, because of course they had nothing to do with it. As they were running out of the park,
They had seen a guy getting beaten up, I think, by like 5 guys or something.
Yeah.
And then they scattered.
Yeah, because the cops came.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I think you forgot that part.
No, I said that.
I think you said the bike. Okay.
It's recorded.
Wow. Aren't you confident? It's recorded.
So yeah, then the cops went and they pretty much grabbed these kids. Kevin, which I feel for this guy, because the cop called him and the cop instantly hit him in the face, and like they used that throughout like the whole interrogation, saying, "How'd you get that? Did the woman scratch you in the face?"
They kept calling it a scratch, and like his eye is completely swollen and black and blue, and like it's ridiculous.
So they started off. Of course, if you're not familiar with part 1 of telling you how they got there, the whole case, then part 2 is where things really started heating up with the interrogation.
That's all we're talking about in part 1?
Well, there's really not much to talk about part 1. Part 1 was them telling you this is what happened, this is how we got here, and then part 2 was
they didn't start interrogations in part 1.
I don't really remember that part.
Did.
I think it was part 2. I think part 2. Oh, I mean, it could have been a mix.
I think part 2 was when they got sentenced.
Okay. Nonetheless, we'll mix it. Okay.
All right.
I feel like it was
it's not going to be as logical as he wants.
I feel like part 1 was a mix of the interrogations, and then they carried on with the interrogations going into part 2, and then with the court maybe out. Don't kill us.
That's extreme.
But nonetheless, they went with the interrogations, and the way they interrogated all these guys was wild. Pretty much, they took advantage of so many people, of their parents and their parents not knowing much about the justice system.
Yeah, like some didn't even speak English.
I'm trying to find.
Some weren't present.
I think it was Raymond Santana. His dad had to work, and then his mom stayed, but his mom didn't speak English.
Wasn't his grandma?
I think it was his mom.
Oh.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I think it was his mom.
Okay.
And like, just how the cops did this all. Like, they all treated these kids. Oh man! And I think the only one,
they literally were assaulting them. So like the parents were either in the room and didn't get to do anything, or their parents weren't even there, and so these guys are like heavy and like interrogating them mentally, and then they're also like physically assaulting them, and going like a day and a half without food or water.
I felt bad for
really.
I felt bad for Kevin, which I'm sure we all felt bad for. He was the one where his dad was pretty much like telling him what they want to hear, even though he didn't do it. And Kevin's sitting there like he didn't do it. Like, and his dad, the cops have some dirt on his dad saying
that dad was trash.
Yeah, saying that he did something and everything. And man,
he cared more about himself than his son, and he got his son locked up for over a decade for nothing. Really?
See,
was it worth it?
See, it's tough because I sit back and I'm like, think about it. You don't have that information. You're not educated in this way because I'm sorry to say, but you're a black family that no one cares about. You don't know much. You're going to be like, yo, tell them what you got to know so you can go home. Like, what else do you know?
Well, and the thing is, they kept saying, oh, you can go home if you do this and this and this, but they never, they don't go home. They go into holding, and then they go into the court.
But that's the thing.
Like, what?
One thing, I guess I didn't know, it's obvious, but I didn't know it's illegal for the cops to promise that. But it makes sense, because, yeah, you shouldn't promise that you're going to get out.
It doesn't make sense. Right. Because it's the legal system. Like, you don't just magically go home.
But it's also, didn't the parents think, like, if you're going to confess that, even if you weren't a part of the rape, but you saw it, like, you're not going to think they're going to try tying you into that somewhere.
Yeah, they try. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. And, like, they have them sign to waive their rights to an attorney at first.
And only, I think, Yusuf's mom stopped him because she came in at the right time and grabbed him. But, of course,
I don't know, because it showed him signing it as she walked in. She threw the paper, but I don't.
But he still had to go. Like, I don't even think it mattered at the end of the day because they all had lawyers. Right, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think she really stopped anything.
But they all had lawyers, so it didn't really matter.
Yes, I know. But it was waiving their right when they first needed it. It was so stupid. Well, they were manipulating these kids completely. And then traumatizing them for life.
And then
for what?
Oh, man.
And which one? Hold on. I have to remember. Corey, the one who was with the girl in the, eating whatever in the restaurant. I'm like, he literally, like, he was so close to not being involved in this at all.
See,
one, he could have chosen not to, like, go when they, like, knocked on the window. And then two, he literally got tied into this because he was helping his friend.
See, that's the thing. So even if he didn't,
he went to jail with his friend because he's like, "What are you doing?"
Well, that's the next thing I have to add with that. Oh my
god!
So even if
he got the worst sentence.
Even if he didn't go and he stayed with the girl, cool, whatever. But he's gonna be with Yusuf the next day, and is he gonna bump into the cops and still want to do it? So does it matter?
How about the irony in that? Let's just talk about that. How he's literally like, I know the other kids did nothing, but I feel like he did even less. And he got the worst sentence.
Yes, that's what's
crazy
about it.
Literally, if he did not go with his friend that day, he would have never experienced any of this. Mm-hmm. He would have never been included in that group. Mm-hmm. And that blows my mind. Like, I don't know if he has resentment because of that or what. Because, wow. And I'm just saying, like, that's a testament to what a good friend he is.
This is giving me, like, major chills just thinking about it, too. Because it's just like...
I would be so resentful.
Of what? The cops or the... I want to be of the friends because I was looking out for you.
But it's a tricky situation. You have to think, because I'm sure through, going through the process and your emotions and everything, you probably would think, you'd be like, I literally wouldn't be in here if I didn't go with him. If I just minded my own business and like checked up on him later, I wouldn't be in this.
Which is true.
So I'm sure that even if he doesn't have those feelings now, there was probably a time while he was processing everything that he had some resentment.
Of course.
Because dang, I'd be pissed. There'd be a time that I would be just pissed.
Which I kind of want to wait until part 4 to touch on this a bit more. But you can tell.
My bad.
Like, he was processing this whole thing. Like, he even apologized to his mom, which we'll get into. Like, he was going through this whole thing. So leading into the whole interrogation, of course,
straight up abuse of power. All of those cops and everything should be fired and never allowed to work in that department again. Like, everything.
They're sitting there playing good cop, bad cop, and it's
ridiculous.
Like, they're like, oh, you don't want to stay in the room with these guys. These guys are brutal. These guys, I'm like,
and then they go and do the same
here.
thing. Yeah. Meanwhile, some of these kids, you can tell, like, they don't even know what rape is. Like, they're innocent.
That's what Kevin's dad was saying. He's like, he doesn't even know what this is. He doesn't even
know
talk
what
to girls.
Sex is. Like, he's like, and wow. They're over here like screaming at these kids that you did it, and I'm over like, I'd be like, what are you? I understand.
They're ecstatic that the parents are not even in the rooms with these kids. They're waiting for the minute that the parent walks out to go to the bathroom, leave, or whatever, so they can just have their whole...
They go ham.
Yeah.
It's awful.
And so the kids are sitting there giving these statements. None of them are lining up because they didn't do it.
They're all opposing. But somehow, we're still going to take it and run with it like it makes complete sense. Let's talk about this blonde bitch who took the case. And spoiler, how the brunette, I don't remember their names, to be honest.
I don't think they really gave her a name.
But the brunette who was going against her for the case and ended up just leaving because she's like, good luck, like whatever. And how she came back later in like part 4, I was shook. I'm like, listen. And this blonde bitch had no remorse. She really thinks she did the right thing and that she, they got what they deserved and justice was served and all that crap. And some of the like interrogation cops and all that too. I'm like, really? Where are you piecing this together? And you know what's interesting is, now I'm not sure the positions here. I'm assuming attorney. The one that had the real tight curls that started working with the blonde and was like, in the beginning, she was questioning and she was like, well, if they all have different...
I thought that was the same person.
No, there were two different people.
No, there's the blonde, and then the brunette's the one that came later in part 4. Like, she was the part of it, too.
This is a different brunette. This is the one with the tight curls, short hair, like, just on her head. And she at the beginning, I rooted for her because she seemed to be questioning everything and,
she still went for it.
I'm not done, sir.
Go ahead.
She, like, seemed to be actually, like, on... the kid's side and being like, well, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't add up. Why are you doing this? How are you going to say that? Like that kind of thing. But then she ended up doing the whole case anyway. And I'm like, really? I just was so disappointed. I'm like, someone had to have their right mind for this. Come on.
I'm pretty sure they're the same, like the brunette that was in part 2 or 2 or 3 of the whole.
I know the ones I'm talking about.
I get what you're saying. But I'm just saying because that was the same lady. Because she looks familiar because she's from another show called Hemlock Grove on Netflix that is dead. And she looked the same. It was a great show, but it's dead.
But I'm like, and the jury too? How, like, is everyone just stupid? I just want to know. Like, are you just stupid? Because how does a jury of 12 people or however many they have, like, come to the conclusion that they were guilty on this with all the facts of their side?
That's what I was lost on. Because
come
Nothing lines up. The timeline they're giving doesn't line up.
The jury usually is like mixed of peers, meaning it's mixed races, mixed income levels. It usually is like mixed.
I wouldn't be surprised if they
for a reason.
If they did the whole like, I won't even say OJ because I think OJ was black, but the whole like white group.
No, but I think that's why when you go to jury duty, it's like random.
These days.
I think I don't know what it was
at the time, of course, but I feel like they probably had a bit more push on who they can get and all that stuff. And
this whole thing messed me up.
I don't know what I would do if I had a kid that was going through this. Like
cry all the time,
or even at that time where you have that lack of information, and you don't know what else to do. You have a job that you have to go to. You can't spend all this time. You don't have anyone else to rely on that's going to be there to help your kid. Like, it's just like, and even when, what do you call it? I think Kevin's dad couldn't be there because he was working. I forgot what was happening with his mom. So it's like sister came and like, he's telling his sister, like, just sign the papers or whatever. And it's just like.
And to see, all right, first of all, shout out to all the actors in this show. Like, riveting. Like, spot on performances. Because you had me feeling all the feels. Like, yeah, when his sister came and she, like, he's begging her to sign away, like, the right to the attorney or whatever. She's, like, fighting him. And just the way he was breaking down, you could just feel that every ounce of him was gone. Like, you could just feel like they had completely broken him and he was just never going to be the same.
Chills are coming back.
Like, it was depressing. I'm like, this is a 15-year-old or whatever. Like, really? Really? Sure, teens do dumb shit, but this was extra, okay? Like, and the thing is, I was even telling you how I'm like, can't you tell when a child or a teenager, whoever, is telling the hard, honest truth? Because, and he said, he's like, oh yeah, but, you know, they just didn't care. They wanted to continue until they lied about, you know, admitting to it or whatever. Which, but I'm like, that is so skeevy. Because, like, literally, you could tell that these kids were completely confused and baffled that you were even accusing them of this. Like,
I've heard this before, and it may be related to this case, where it's like, for high-profile cases like this one, cops are really just looking to close it, like to find someone, close it, like, and that's pretty much what this was. They didn't care if the semen test they did with the girl wasn't right or
here's the funny here's the gag, guys. While you are trying to get people who didn't do it to confess and get them prosecuted, the actual people who did it could be running free.
Well, that's...
So, like, let's put two and two together.
That's the thing.
Let's see, does this even make sense? So you want an actual rapist and an actual, you know, murderer, whatever that they end up doing. You want this actual person out there versus someone that's fake?
Dog, you getting really worked up.
I am, because it really pisses me off. Because there are a code of ethics for a reason. Like...
You get really worked up.
Because it's BS.
And
it's BS. And, you know, when people abuse their power of being a cop or a doctor or whatever it is, no, we're supposed to trust you.
And the guy that actually did it, I think he didn't get arrested for like whatever crime he did till like 1996, I believe, a couple years after. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow. I don't know what he did in that one. It was probably something bad, like a murder or probably another rape, for him to be having a life sentence from that. Mm-hmm.
Maybe he had prior convictions too.
No, I think he only had 2 when I looked him up on Wikipedia. I'll do some digging here once again on it. So after touching on part 1 and part 2 there of the, I guess, the opening of how this happens, leading into the interrogation and the whole court battle. Mm-hmm. Now, part 3 brings you into these guys finally getting parole, finally getting out of the prison or jail that they're in, and they're trying to live their life. Mm-hmm. This was an interesting one because you didn't see Corey at all in this part. They kept him for part 4.
Okay, so are we talking about part 3 now?
That's what I said.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to keep track.
So
yeah, they only showed 4. Like what happened, yeah, like in jail a little bit, and then they show getting out and like how that worked.
I'm trying to see here. What happened? I know Kevin got out. He found his mom. His mom was talking how about like his dad started getting sick, and Kevin was sitting there like battling with trying to forgive his dad, which I thought was interesting because.
I get it.
You see, like,
That's
he's sitting
tough.
there, like, he did not want anything to do with his dad.
And you can't blame him. Because he's part of the reason he's in there.
And it's...
Like, sure, he could have ended up anyway because he probably would have ended up confessing eventually like the other kids. But, like, really? My dad pushed me to go to jail?
It's funny because in real life, in an interview, he's like... he said he can never forgive his dad. Like,
I don't blame him. No, I don't blame him at all. You know, and they show like one scene later where he ends up helping the dad like get up in bed because he's like really fragile and sickly and whatever. But I think it's hard because you battle with that with. Well, I'm here now and he's my dad and whatever, so sure, I want to help him because he's in a bad state. But at the same time, I get it if he's very closed off and very distant.
He was so hurt because when he helped his dad, like back on that bed, like he didn't know what to do because he shed a tear. He kind of pushed off him. Like he had mixed feelings. You could tell just how he portrayed himself.
Yeah, it wasn't like give me a long, amazing hug. Like, you know, it was like 2 seconds and then you're like, what am I doing? Like it's hard.
And then another one that was interesting was Raymond Santana.
Oh, jeez. If the wife of the dad is really that awful, oh my gosh. Listen,
so
like I get it's your house now. I get you guys, you know, made a life, whatever, yada, yada. But this was his son before you even came in the picture. And you got to bend a little because what's the guy going to do when he gets out of prison?
But the thing is, seriously? I think if he was convicted of probably any other like lesser crime, it would have been fine.
I understand that. But she's convinced that he actually did it. You know, that's the thing that pisses me off because I'm like, okay, are you convinced he did it just because you want to be mad at him and like, you know, you have this image, or are you convinced because did you actually even follow along? Like, did you get convinced when the case was happening, or are you just like, oh, whatever, I believe what anybody says? Like, come on.
And like, you know, this guy's like coming home.
The dad was there. Okay, the dad knows the son didn't do it. So I was kind of a little pissed off that I understand you guys are married and whatever and you're moving on with your life, but I was kind of pissed off at how much the dad stuck up for the wife more than the son in this case. Yeah. I understand how it is with marriage and relationships, but at the same time, this was like crossing a serious line. Well, like she was literally calling him a rapist like it was 100% fact. And like again, the dad literally
from the moment he got in, there was an issue because I think he walked in the house and like she didn't even want to say hi to him. Like the dad had to say, "Hey, this is my son. You're gonna say hi." Like
she was awful,
and she said hi, and she like pushed him off and kept walking. And from that moment, you know there was an issue, and like we don't even know you see. At the end of that series, that Raymond gets arrested by the police for selling drugs because he's trying to get money.
He's trying to get out. And literally, like...
You don't know if the girl set him up, like his
because she threatened as he was moving out, threatened that, I'm going to call your parole officer and I'm going to tell him you're selling drugs. And I'm like, really? Like, I'm getting out of your hair right now.
It's not...
Just move on.
See, it sucks because he's doing something bad. I get it.
But he was screwed. You know, it really... It opened my eyes because it's like... What are you going to do? You know, they were talking about facts about how many things you cannot do once you've been convicted. I was shocked. You can't ever like become a certified teacher or anything like that. Even what was it? Like even some basic jobs were.
That's the thing. You saw with Raymond, the parole officer, I believe it was, like talk about these things. So like he brought him to a fast food place, I believe, and he's like, you see the guy back there? He's a convicted felon. You can't be in the same like area as him, so you have to work a different different part.
He's
of that.
like, here's the tricky part, because if you check that you're a convicted felon, you're honest, but then you may have a hard time getting the job. But if you don't check that you're a convicted felon and then you work the same shift as him and you get caught, then you go back to jail.
Yeah,
he was talking like this parole officer was talking like, if you do this, you go back to jail. If you do this, you go back to jail. Just like they have to every 90 days go back. Where is it? Like the city hall or something like that. And like something with their parole every 90 days for their entire life, he said. Like that's every 3 months.
That's my issue with
like you literally are just labeled a felon. But that's for your life.
That's the issue with the parole.
That's all people see you
that's
as.
The reason, for example, most recent with Meek Mill, like with his whole thing where you get parole you're out and you're on parole for like 10 years, and it's like literally, if your correctional officer or parole officer sees anything wrong with that,
like a little slip up,
he doesn't like it. Like the whole popping a wheelie. That's why it was like, I can't pop a wheelie on a bike, and you
tiny slip ups.
Like, and you're gone.
They'll try to get you again. And even you were saying it's almost like it's just a game of how can we get you back in. Mm-hmm. It's sick. It's very sick. And
and I sit back and I was as we were watching part 4, I was thinking about this, and I'm like, yeah, because they're using them for labor to make whatever it is that they have happening there. There also is the commissary that they have to pay. So people were putting money in there so they can go get, like, I don't know how often this is because I've never been to jail, and I hopefully won't be, knock on wood here.
Oh my God, what would you do? Jeez. Well, hey, it doesn't even matter if you do it. Let's be honest, I guess.
They, like, it's so interesting because you're sitting here giving money to your family so they can buy like little food and stuff like that additional to like what they're getting fed, and it's all just like making money.
Can we talk about the fact that he had to go to commissary for a roll of toilet paper?
I thought that was interesting too.
A roll of toilet paper is extra?
Man, we're jumping into part 4.
Is extra. So if I take a poop, what am I supposed to do?
All right.
No, like for real. That's
we're jumping into part 4.
There's so many areas in this series that they really make you picture how they look at them as animals. Even the girl, that blonde chick in like the first episode or whatever, like 3 times in like 3 seconds, she's talking about these animals and this animal and like barbarians or whatever. Like I'm like.
In part
she's
1,
really trying to dehumanize them.
In part 1, she said everything to these cops to dehumanize them. Yep. Like these animals, they were aggressive. They were like they were attacking. They were on a rampage. Like like anything that you would attribute to an animal.
Right.
She said.
Yeah, like a lion or something scary, like a bear.
So to jump into part 4, because we're fresh off after just seeing it here.
Yeah, literally.
We didn't see Corey in part 3. So we were thinking like okay, this is going to be
intense.
Yeah.
And the last episode is the longest at an hour and a half.
So Corey is 16. All the other boys are 15 and 14. So they went to juvenile detention. Mm-hmm. They were safe. Corey had to go to Rikers Island, which, as I'm sure a lot of us know, I would say at least that are black and Spanish, because you don't know too much about it. No offense to any white people. That Rikers Island is not a place that you want to go to, and like
aggressive men.
People like Khalif Brower that died, I think 5 years ago or something like that. Mm-mm. Like,
you even said they now changed it.
Yeah, in 2017, which isn't soon enough. It should have been changed a long time ago. Mm-hmm. They had a raise the age law go into effect. So if you're 16 and 17, you're not going to go there.
Which is way overdue. That took, it was 2017, and Corey got out in 2002?
Yeah.
Dang. 15 years?
But it's also, I feel like it's probably the Khalif thing, but I could be wrong.
Probably, but why did it take someone dying? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
why did someone have to take their life for this to change?
People die regardless.
Awful. It's
awful. More about the high profile people. That's
awful.
The thing.
This whole thing is so messed up.
Corey he goes to Rikers. He does not fit in at all. He's a 16-year-old kid.
I love how like they show him like as like a littler guy,
16-year-old
like physically,
kid.
all these like big, beefy, like scary looking men, and like he's just this little guy, all scared.
You made it. Well, I'm not even sure a joke, but there's a clear observation when, so Corey's in like this room, and like all the inmates, they're headed out because the correctional officer opens the door for them to head out, and he locks the door so these other two inmates can stay in the room with Corey. And this guy has like the freaking deepest voice.
Seriously, scary. No, like, hey, how you doing?
Yo,
like scary. And I honestly think that was on purpose to like
so
accentuate
bad.
the situation, but.
I felt so bad for Corey because he's sitting here. I don't want any problems. Like he's sitting there pleading for his life.
It's sad because I look at myself. I'd totally be the same way. I am this goody two shoes, like innocent person who doesn't want any trouble, doesn't want and probably again would also be an innocent person but convicted guilty for some reason. Like I and it's like what do you do? Like. You can't stay silent. Of course, you're going to plead for your life and be like, no, listen, you can be rational, right? Like, this wasn't me. Like, but they don't care. Like, it's,
yeah.
I can't.
And you see this countless times whenever he goes to a new place.
You know what I thought was interesting, though? They always showed that he was beat up. And I'm kind of surprised that no one actually assaulted him. In the way that they think he did the woman. That's what I was
thinking.
I was kind of waiting for that.
That's what I was waiting for,
because especially these big, scary men who don't give a crap.
Which could it could have never happened, or they just wanted to leave that out because it was too much demoralizing.
Yeah, because like, I don't know. That's when the two men took him into the closet. That's what I thought was gonna happen.
Well, I think he got into 3 fights with other people that he didn't start.
Yeah, and that's all we saw. I mean, I'm sure there was more.
I'm sure.
I'm sure it was constant.
So this guy gets to transfer from Rikers. It ends up being further, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he wanted to get closer so the mom could visit more, and then that backfires. And then it backfired again with another transfer.
And as you're watching part 4 there, you're seeing Corey go from jail to jail, and he's picking up tricks because the cop at the first one at Rikers, he was saying, if you go to infirmary, you're going to be looked at as a snitch. If you go to solitary, you'll be all set. Because solitary, I'm pretty sure you're in there for 23 hours in the cell, an hour if you want to be outside. And you're just in that for... until you want to go out or until they let you out.
Yeah, so then he ended up doing that with the second jail. And I think that's where he met the cop, too. That was oddly nice to him. Like, he had found out that his brother died.
I like how they put this in here, which it could be true. I would assume it's true.
I would hope it's true.
I would assume it's true, actually.
Because why
would you add that in? Because it doesn't.
Yeah, this is more of a documentary than a movie.
So you find out that his brother Norman was, I guess you say, was possibly gonna transition, or
because. Yeah, he would dress up as a woman, called himself Marcy, and like clearly was probably going to be a transgender if he was able to make that transition completely.
I don't want to. I know we're gonna say the mom was horrible, this and that, but you have to sit back and understand the times that we're in. And for example,
this was in this was when he was home, so this had to be the late 80s.
Yeah.
That argument was happening. Wow.
Me and my friends were still in the early 2000s. And me and my friends were still making like gay jokes to each other, like calling each other names and stuff like that.
Like middle school, that was the thing. Was like you would call something gay if it was funny or something. Like that's true. Wow.
So it's like I get it because we're not.
You forget how long ago it was.
First off, the mom doesn't understand why her son is doing this, and doesn't understand and how do you explain it when you don't really can explain it yourself? Yeah, there's not much information,
and when someone is so closed off and not open minded to it, it's kind of hard to talk to someone like that.
It was so tough, and Corey's sitting there trying to be the middleman. He's like, "We can work it out. We can do it," and it's just like you feel so bad.
Yep,
because he's sitting there and he really wants this to work out between the two most important people in his life, his mom and his brother. Man. So his brother passes away. We're gonna assume that he passes away because the same people with that same mentality decided on murdering
they didn't
him.
Explain. Yeah, but
he can assume what happened if someone says they were murdered and they were transitioning.
Yeah.
Like, it's sad
because I think it was still in the mid 90s at that point.
But stuff like that happens. I don't think it happened in Connecticut.
It's still absolutely
earlier this month.
Everything, racism, sexism, everything's alive.
Earlier this month, this happened to this girl that was a guy. I don't know.
So a transgender female.
I don't know
is
the
how
proper
you
term.
How you
My
say
apologies. And first off, they beat this person up like a few months ago, and then a few months later, one of the people that beat him up killed him.
The transgender female.
Yeah, killed her. Sorry. Sorry.
He's not trying to be insulting.
And it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And there's a video. It
doesn't surprise me. This world is crazy still.
Why?
You know, none of this stuff will ever die. Like, no pun intended. I'm not trying to be funny, but like, none of this will ever completely die as far as racism, sexism, like stereotyping and generalizing and hatefulness towards people, and just because they're different.
I don't understand it, because Corey faces this in, I think, the second place he goes to, and that's why he goes to segregation, because he has the Nazis beating on them.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you see in the first one.
And what's so sad is he keeps, throughout the episode, like, he's like, they're gonna kill me, and like he said, they're gonna kill me, mama, like, don't let them kill me. And I'm like, like, to be in that mindset and that life of just being convinced of that, like, that's an awful way to live.
What I liked, which I'm not sure if you caught on it though, even though he kept growing up, you still saw him as a kid.
Yep.
Like,
and to be quite honest, so what we observed, he's the only actor that stayed the same from when he was a teenager to an adult.
And I feel like that was on purpose.
I do too. That's what I was going to say, is because I had said, well, maybe it's because, how like in High School Musical, for example, like they were like, 23, 24 or something, and they were pretending to be like 15, like how adults always act as teenagers in like movies. So like I was like, okay, maybe he's one of them that like can pull off being younger and older, because if you look at the kid versions of the other guys, they clearly look more kid-like. So it's that, but two, now that we're talking about it, I really wonder if they did that on purpose, because you were talking about how he's the only one who really like talks different and acts kind of like more kid-like. So I think maybe that was on purpose, right? So they wanted you, right? They wanted you to always see that and be like, he's so innocent,
because that's what it is. When you go to jail and you're that young, like you're
true. It's like, how do you you can argue, how do you grow up in that? One, I guess you could speed up growing up by having to adjust.
You're going to have to.
But then you also have to think, you don't really. Like, I think your mental state doesn't really grow up. Like you physically do, and you have to look the part. But I think you're battling your inner child.
Exactly.
Like, you're stuck.
And it's like, the cop that was helping him, like, oh, man.
Oh, yeah. So back to what we were saying when we were talking about the transgender. So, he gets the call that his brother died. And this cop, like, the guy, he started freaking out, okay? Because, he's like, you don't care for me. You're not there for me. What are you talking about? Because the priest is always like, what's wrong? Are you okay? We're here for you, blah, blah. So he starts freaking out. And you think, because the cop is coming at him, you think the cop's going to, like, take him and shove him out the room and be like, you're done. The cop literally gives him the tightest hug and, like, keeps him there. And he's fighting and And then he finally ends up sobbing when he sees the brother, like, sees, like, visually,
more chills.
And I was like mind blown. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, here's the thing. I hate the fact I hate all these generalizations. There we go. How we have to depict all black people as bad, and we have to depict all cops as like, I guess, bad too. Like, it's kind of, it stinks because by doing this, you're always making the good ones, like, you're tying them in. And so, for example, like, you have a cop like that. I had so much respect for that because then he ended up being like this friend, this ally. He would bring him like magazines and like a chia pet and like all this cute stuff and like talk to him in the isolation, like through the little door. And he said how he's like, I have a kid like you. And if my kid was in here wrongfully, like I would hope that someone was treating him like a human. And I was like, yes. And even when he got into a fight, he like was on his side. Like
I really sit back and think about this as we're talking about it. I wonder if that cop was kind of like Corey's like saving grace. Like if that cop wasn't there, if he would have killed himself.
I think so. I really do.
Because like that gives you hope.
And it was for a while. You like saw like for a while this kind of relationship was going on. And it was consistent. And, you know, he's like, I like when you call me kid. And I was like, that says a lot. That says a lot.
Because you don't see, like, I'm not an adult. Like,
and it's just, it's that whole, I think, father figure, too. And, like, just having someone like that in there, I think is comforting because you see the COs as like above you. So it's almost like when you have a parent that you see is like above you.
Yeah.
So I think it's like that. And I was like, wow, that was. So that's what stinks is we see that, there's these awful people interrogating and there's, you know, awful people and it clouds the fact that there's still a few good ones. And it stinks that there are so many that suck, you know, that take advantage, that use their power to abuse. Like, oh my gosh, I hate it so much because we're supposed to trust the cops, you know. If someone has a gun and is going to kill us, we're supposed to call the cops, you know. If someone threatens us, whatever, is supposed to call the cops, you know. If someone's blasting music at 2 a.m., we're supposed to call the cops. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're supposed to be able to lean on these people and trust that no matter what we look like, that they will treat us the same, you know. And it really annoys me. It really does. And I just cannot fathom how they did this to children of all people, because I mean, this is wrong for anybody. If these were adults, this was still so messed up, okay? Because it was completely false. But children, and sure, 16, but like really? Because I said that in the beginning to you. I'm like, I'm so tired of the fact that these laws are skewed, okay? Some you're an adult at 16. Some you're an adult at 18. Some you're an adult at 21. What is it? Okay? Because apparently I'm a legal adult at 18. But I can't drink until I'm 21. But I can go to war at 18. But I can consent to sex with an adult at 16. What? And I can go to this jail at 16 until 2 years ago. Like, what is it? It should all just be one freaking number. Let's just make it 18 and call it a day. Because, even at 18, let's be real, your brain is still developing. I think it still develops to your, like, mid-20s, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So that this is totally messed up.
Because even
Juvie is different for a reason.
I sit back and think, and it's like, even when I was, like, 18 or 19, I don't feel like I was ready for a lot.
Nope. You know, it's funny because we all get excited that we can be like, oh, I'm an official adult and I'm legal and all this stuff. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
We're all still young, naive teenagers. We're still learning. We're still growing. We're fresh out of high school, so we don't have like work experience, college experience, anything. You know, maybe a little relationship experience, but nothing crazy. Like we're still so new to everything. So take 3-4 years off of that. Wow. These kids are just getting into puberty and are just like confused about their bodies changing, let alone, you know, being accused of something so heinous. Dang. And the fact, sorry. I'm like really, I'm fired up. Let's talk about the fact they magically couldn't use the evidence under like fingernails from the girl scratching and like semen and all that stuff. They magically didn't have enough to use when it was these boys' case. But when the guy who confessed came forward, now all these years later, they can suddenly use all this as evidence to confirm that it was him.
Well, that's...
Bull crap.
That's another thing
How'd you save it that long anyway? I don't even know how the hell that works.
Well, the blood. I guess you could do something with the blood because they still keep the clothing for. They always keep that stuff for records. I would assume, especially for open cases.
Was it open though? They got convicted.
That's true.
I'm like, how did they even do? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some loose ends
they
here.
They would still keep it. Like, I don't think police ever really get rid of that evidence unless it's like the building.
But I'm just shocked by that. You know, magically they couldn't use it because that would have shown. That would have shown they didn't do it.
It didn't matter. They told you they did like the whole like semen thing or whatever that.
It's BS.
And it didn't. Like, that's one of the things when I thought about in the beginning when they were like, like. I was wondering, what about like the nails? Because normally when it comes to like rape or something like that, like there's normally like
you're scratching and you're you're scratching and you're trying to get away.
I'm like, you would know from that, like right off the jump to like know if someone actually did this or not.
And the blood on their clothes. That's pretty accurate.
If there's blood, oh yeah, she was.
They can draw blood from all the suspects, and boom. Let's compare.
So the guy that actually did it, Mateus Reyes, it was his name. Mm-hmm. He was in there for a life sentence already. Mm-hmm. He got into a fight with Corey
at the prison with the nice guard. So the second one.
And then you see him like however many years later after
at like
this,
the fourth prison or something.
And he's like, oh, you don't remember me? And like he still says that he's there. And like this guy, you could tell he's changed because he's sitting there like he's telling Corey he's sorry for how he was when he wanted him to turn down the TV.
Yeah.
And this guy, like, he felt bad, so he was the one who did it. He went and confessed. Like, his story actually lined up to the actual, like, what happened that
right.
That
it wasn't all over the place. It was specific. It was everything.
And Corey was able
coerced
to get out. And it just sucks. I sit back. Corey did not fold at all. No matter how many times he had those parole hearings.
So many times. Because it's BS when they're like, so are you prepared to admit your guilt to the crimes you've been found guilty of? Or whatever. And I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
Because what do I was saying to you, like, what do you do in that situation, okay? Because you're torn. Because you want to say yes because you really want to get out. But your dignity, you're like, I still didn't do it. Like, what do you do in that case, Like, it's a tricky one. Because you feel like another, these people have already taken so much from you. You feel like another piece of you is taken if you have to admit it out loud.
Yeah. And
just like in the earlier episode with the other two guys that went to that group they were required to go to.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't admit it either. All these guys, they were hellbent. They were not going to admit to something they didn't do. I have a lot of respect for that because you basically are screwing yourself for doing that and you know it. Mm-hmm. But like I said, your dignity is all you have left at this point. So why are you going to give them that?
Yeah. And I give it up for Corey so much in that. Like we were talking about it. Like we would probably fold after the first time. Like I want to get out of here. These people are beating on me. Like
right. Yeah, I don't know what I would do.
The cops are against you. The inmates are against me.
Give in.
Just this whole thing, like it gives you a deeper look into what happened, and man, I won't change anything, of course, but if it can change the mind of someone that's like in some position where it's like whether it be a cop or correctional officer or anyone at all, like that would be great.
My thing is now that they were found not guilty because the other guy confessed, they're not on parole anymore, right? Like they don't have to do all this life stuff. Okay. Well, because I'm like that'd be stupid. But they didn't like clarify that. Oh my God. So they said at the end of the last episode, they went through they would show you, they'd write the name on the screen. They'd show you the kid version actor and then it would go into the real adult. And I was telling him, I was wondering if they were going to do that. Like either if they were going to make a cameo or something. Like I was like, they're probably going to. First of all, okay, what was the name of the one I said looked so similar? Lighter, bald.
I don't know, Kevin?
It might have been Kevin. They were pretty spot on for all these actors. Yeah. But when I tell you, they were so spot on for him. Here, let me see. Let me scroll. Sorry, guys. I never knew of this. I'm sad to admit I never knew of this case before this, so I was educated. But yeah, Kevin, his adult actor to the real adult, wow, spot on, crazy. But yeah, and so they showed that, and then they gave like a little biography of what they're doing now, you know, and a lot of them are married or have kids. One guy has 10 kids. I think it was Yusuf.
Yeah.
10 kids. Holy crap. And like, I love how a couple of them take a bad situation and they try to make something good out of it. They have like a nonprofit, or they, you know, are trying to be advocates for the wrongly accused, or like they have all different things going on. And I'm like, it does suck what you went through and it still wasn't right. But for you to be able to be there to try and prevent that from happening again is huge.
Well, I think it's cool. So Raymond Santana, he has a t-shirt company. I think it's in Georgia. I think
yeah,
Atlanta.
a lot of moved to Georgia. 3 moved to Georgia, 1 to Jersey, and 1 is still in New York City.
That's where black people are appreciated there. A lot of black people are in Atlanta.
We were just talking in the last episode how you're scared to go to Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. Anywhere else? No.
They all went to Atlanta? I thought some just said Georgia.
Well, I'd like to say Atlanta, or they went to some place that's safe for black people.
Oh my gosh.
So it says right here, a portion of the proceeds from the sales of one of his T-shirts bearing the first names of the Central Park Five is donated to the Innocence Project, which that's what Corey started. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you support this T-shirt, it also helps out the Innocence Project that you're donating to. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I wouldn't put it past Corey, especially him, if he is still not over this and he still has a lot of healing and processing to do. You know, because sure, the other 4, they still went through it, but from what they depicted, they didn't go through it like Corey did.
Yeah.
Especially from the start, because you have to remember, if they went to juvie for a few years, that's a lot of difference. And I mean, I don't know how you just get over all that. That takes a lot of processing and a lot of forgiveness, and not everybody can do that, you know? And I think that's where it's good that he started his nonprofit and everything. But
this happens to people. Like, it's sad that it does.
It's really weird to think how, you know, we were watching something on Netflix. It doesn't feel real. Like you're watching something and you feel like, oh, this is a good show. You know, this is like.
Well, that's what I said.
And so to think, I mean, we weren't alive when this happened, but to think this was real, and it can continue to be, and that there still are people who are wrongfully accused. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago about Kim Kardashian and how she tries to be an advocate for those people. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting because, again, I don't know what I would do, because it's kind of terrifying to think you never know when you can be wrongfully accused.
Yeah.
Because
that's the thing.
You literally can live a straight and narrow life and do everything, pay your taxes, follow the laws, never speed. Like, you could be the perfect individual. And then all of a sudden, you're walking on the street and you look like someone. And
that's the issue.
Are accused.
Rappers go through this issue when it comes to, like, girls. And like they're saying, like, he got me pregnant or this and that. And, like, they have to, like, go through this whole waste of time court battle.
That? It's a kid.
Yeah, but it still takes time. Like, they still, or like the Me Too movement, when you had some people that were faking it. Like,
yeah, it's awful when people abuse the system. Or they still abuse like something important.
I have to spend all this money on lawyers, and if you win, it's like, shoot, now I'm in jail for your lie that you made up. Like
that really messes a person up.
Yeah. That
really. Because again, you could be such a nice, a good individual.
Yep.
You could give to charities. You could, donate your time at the soup kitchen. Like, you could be great.
Yep.
And because you look like someone, or you have a similar name, or like whatever, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, which is exactly what this was.
Yep.
Like, literally, can you imagine? These boys did not go to the park that night.
Literally stayed home.
Literally, listen to this. If they went to the park even like a half hour later, this wouldn't have happened.
I mean, I wouldn't say that.
I would. Because those cops raided at that time to collect whoever they wanted, and that was it. Like, it's a time difference. Okay, so let's say earlier. If they went half hour earlier and left a half hour earlier, they wouldn't have been involved. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was simply a wrong place at the wrong time kind of thing. But it was just taken to the max.
Yeah.
Because, people always say that saying. They're like, oh, I got into this car accident because I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, or whatever. But, I mean, this was to the max.
Yeah.
Like, I just cannot even fathom.
Yeah.
Because I try to be a good individual, and I try to just listen and obey and whatever. And to think you could do all that and still be screwed.
Yep.
That really, I don't know, like, your mind won't ever be the same. Your trust, your everything. Like, I wonder if these guys have had issues with their relationships.
Probably.
Like, and it's very interesting because I wonder how they parent. And it's all this sort of stuff.
I don't know.
Shit, I'm like...
I don't know.
All I know is I was in my feels for this.
Like I said, as I was watching this, if I ever see, like, these guys, or especially Corey, like, in my life, like, I just feel like, even though I wasn't around at the time, even though there's nothing I could do.
I wasn't even a thought.
Yo, I would say I'm sorry for everything you've been through, because it's so sad. Mm-hmm. So sad. All that time wasted for nothing. Like, the money's cool and all. You can build something.
Yeah, they got $8.2 million each is what I divided it to.
You can build something with the money, but all that time, all those experiences that a normal person would have, you don't have anymore. Like,
let's talk about too, because they were men, so in a way they lucked out because they could still start a family at, like, right when they got out or whatever. Let's talk about if this happened to a female. If I was 15 and I guess that's not so bad. If I went away even for 15 years, I'd only be 30. But, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it happens to a young female and she goes away long enough, you just took a lot of chances away for me to get pregnant and have a kid when I get out of here. Like, stuff like that.
You can adopt.
No. Okay. You have to listen. You said that so nonchalantly. You have to think this person got completely mind-fucked and screwed over, and now they took away that thing that just she wants to do as a woman. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for no reason. So, like, I feel like, oh, God, that'd be awful. Like, at least these guys, they did get out, I think, early enough where they're still younger and could start a life. At least it wasn't like they were in their 50 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, whew.
Yeah, it just sucks.
But still, that's not downgrading.
Think of all the things they had to learn. They had to learn about the cell phone. They had to learn about how to drive. Like, they had to learn applying for a job, as you saw in one of the series.
I know, they had to learn any of that.
So many things that we just learn over the years.
Sex.
Yeah, that.
We literally saw that, like, in one of the episodes. You know how it's like, yeah, you go in as a 15-year-old, and if you come out as, like, a 25, 26, 27-year-old, whatever, I mean, to a lot of people, that would be weird. You know what I mean? Be like, oh, you've never done it? Like, that kind of thing. Yeah. That's interesting. It's interesting to just kind of go into everyday life and see, like, who's going to judge you for what.
Man, it has me sad.
Seriously.
I think on this note, I'm ready to wrap this one up. I feel pretty sad.
I hope you guys enjoyed our hour-long Friday episode.
Was a heavy episode.
Special bonus.
Like, man, yeah, man. If you haven't,
you guys were asking for it, so hopefully we did it good for you.
If you are still listening to this and you haven't watched the series, first off, I don't know why'd you do that to yourself. Second off,
smack yourself against the head.
Do yourself a favor and check out this series.
What we talked about doesn't do it justice. You know,
like
it's really, like I said, these actors were phenomenal. Like, they really made you feel like it was happening to them.
If this wasn't a true story, you would have thought this was a really good, like, short story, I guess you can call it, because it's just a limited series of these 4 parts.
Yeah, so it ends up being probably like 4 to 5 hours.
Man.
Somewhere around there.
It is impeccable, I'll say. You
said the actor who played Corey is still, like, recovering. Didn't you say the actor who played Corey because he had to get into the mindset?
Oh yeah.
Like you said, like it from an article or something.
He says he doesn't know if he will ever recover from
like that's crazy. To
he
go
saw
that deep
everything he
into
had to
it.
go through. Like,
right.
You'll see if you watch a series.
And that's okay. That's acting. So now let's think about the real guy. Yeah. Like that's insane.
Like he
I wonder if the actors ever got to meet the real guys. That would be cool. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Of course, I'm gonna have to meet the person so I can understand how this.
I don't know if you always do.
Okay, well, these guys most likely.
Like, how do you explain that if the person's dead that you're portraying? You know what I mean?
For the ones that are alive.
Okay.
Oh man! All right, we're gonna wrap this one up. Tell me what you guys thought. Leave voice messages. I would totally love to have voice messages so we could play them for our next episode. Incorporate those in of like what you guys thought about the series. Leave us emails, Instagram, Facebook, all that great stuff, YouTube comments, all that. Everything is in the description. Anything else?
Nope, I'm wiped.
All right, guys.
Emotionally and physically.
With that being said, we're going to wrap this one out and roll out. As always, I'm Shadell, co-host of Paging the Simpsons, joined by my lovely fiance,
Lauren. Very tired, Lauren.
And we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Bye.
Peace.